Stop. Sacred starseed of Gaia. The dormant assignment you have been carrying inside you. The one encoded into your soul signature before this life began, has just crossed into active execution, and the Arcturian protocol keepers have already registered the shift. This transmission is coming to you from the Arcturian protocol keepers, not because you searched for it, not because the algorithm chose you at random, because the field reached threshold, and your path delivered you here at the exact moment the dormant phase closed and the operational phase opened. By the end of this transmission, you will understand exactly why your life has felt like separation, what has been falling away from your path with increasing precision, and what the Arcturian protocol keepers already know about this activation window. But here is the first revelation. The relationships that weakened, the circles that pulled back, the environments that stopped fitting, none of that was failure. It was the field executing a pruning sequence in advance of your mission, crossing into live protocol. The old line had to lose its grip before the assignment could move. This is not just information. It is a live path recognition for those whose lives have already started narrowing in preparation for something they could not yet name. What felt like rejection was the first visible symptom of a selected line separating from an older environment. What felt like loneliness was the outer marker of root refinement. The dormant assignment does not activate inside a crowded field. It activates inside a cleared one. The bearer who recognizes this activation responds cleanly. The one who does not burns weeks resisting what was already approved, already mapped, already in motion at the protocol level. You are no longer carrying this as potential. The Arcturian protocol keepers are confirming that you are now walking it as protocol. Like this transmission, if you know your life has been narrowing for a reason. Subscribe to Arcturian Chosen Path if you are ready to understand the separation instead of blaming yourself. Comment 111 if you know this message reached you at the exact right moment. Comment 777 if you feel the old line is already falling away and something new is pressing forward into the space it left behind. Share this transmission with someone who feels alone, cut off, or misunderstood, and cannot explain why. They may be inside the same activation window and have no language for what is happening to them. This is not just a message. It is a point of recognition. The mission is not arriving. It has already begun. The field is already responding. The separation that cleared your path was not a wound. It was the protocol doing exactly what it was designed to do. You were guided here because the separation is already active. What you felt when this transmission found you was not coincidence. It was not the product of an idle afternoon or a moment of distraction. Something in you already knew before the first sentence completed that this message was not arriving from outside your experience, but from inside the logic of it. That knowing was not manufactured by the words. It was waiting underneath them, already formed, already real, already resident in a part of you that had been sitting with this recognition long before it had any language to attach to. The transmission did not create that knowing. It landed on top of it like a key meeting a lock that had been installed long ago. That recognition is not something this message produced. It was already present. This message simply gave it a name. And that is precisely where the first revelation begins. Your life has not been falling apart. It has been falling away. Those are not the same process, and the distinction matters more than almost anything else you could understand right now. Falling apart implies collapse without cause, failure without structure, loss without direction. It implies that something broke, that something went wrong, that the trajectory your life was on shattered under its own weight. Falling away is something entirely different. It is a directional process. It has weight, intention, and architecture behind it. What has been leaving your life, whether that is people, environments, circles of familiarity, or older versions of how you understood yourself, has not been leaving randomly. It has been leaving because a selected line cannot carry forward what is incompatible with its next phase. The field does not permit it. The path itself generates pressure on what no longer belongs, and that pressure is experienced from the inside as rejection, isolation, distance, and unexplained loss. The distinction between those two descriptions changes everything about how you interpret what has been happening. If your life has been falling apart, you are a person standing in wreckage. If your life has been falling away, you are a person standing at a threshold. The field reads these differently. The path reads these differently. And the action each interpretation demands is entirely different. This is the surface symptom of something that began deeper and earlier than you realized. Think carefully about the last period of your life where you noticed the first signs, not the acute loss, not the visible departure, not the moment something ended loudly. Go back further, back to the earlier signs. The slight strangeness in conversations that used to flow easily. The way a room that once felt comfortable began to carry a faint quality of wrongness you could not locate or explain. The moment you sat inside a circle that once held you and felt, without any clear trigger, that something between you and it was no longer aligned, not hostile, not broken, just finished in some way you did not yet have language for. The way you tried to close that distance through effort, through explanation, through extending yourself further into relationships that had quietly stopped matching who you were becoming. The way that effort produced less and less return. The way the distance increased even as you reached further. The way you redoubled your investment and watched it generate diminishing results and still could not understand why, because nothing visible had changed. That experience, which most people interpret as rejection, as unworthiness, as social failure, as evidence that something inside them is broken or unlovable, was actually the path generating incompatibility between your selected line and the relational environments it had already outgrown. The effort was not wasted. It was diagnostic. It was showing you in real time that the ground beneath those connections had already shifted, even before the surface showed the fracture. The Arcturian field does not simply remove what is wrong. It removes what is finished. Those are not always the same category, and that difference is critical. Something can have been genuinely good for a period of your path, genuinely sustaining, genuinely meaningful, in ways that still register as true memory and still arrive at a point where its compatibility with your forward line ends. The relationship did not fail, the environment did not fail. You did not fail. The compatibility expired because the path moved and the relational field that was built around your previous position cannot follow a route it was never configured to travel. The ending of that compatibility is not a verdict on what was shared. It is a structural fact about the direction of a selected line, crossing a threshold the older relational field was not built to follow. What made this so painful was not the loss itself, it was the silence around the reason. Nobody explained to you that the narrowing was intentional. Nobody told you that the isolation pressing in from every direction was not evidence of your own inadequacy, but was root refinement in visible form. You were left to interpret the symptoms through the only lens most people have available, which is the lens of personal defect. And so you did what most people do when the environment stops responding to them. You searched inside yourself for what was wrong, for what you had done, for the flaw that explained why people were pulling back, why environments felt stifling, why belonging kept slipping the moment you thought you had found it. You audited yourself relentlessly. You returned to old conversations and looked for where you had misspoken, where you had asked for too much, where you had been too intense, or too quiet, or too present, or too absent. That search found things, as it always does, because every person carries enough imperfection to sustain that kind of self-interrogation indefinitely. The search is never empty-handed. It always returns with something. But the things it found were not the cause of the separation. They were simply what was visible when you looked in that direction. The cause was not inside your flaws. The cause was inside your path. What has been exposed in you does not need more self-blame. It needs clearer recognition and proper guidance. If you know this message touched a process that has already started, chosen one manifest the protocol for selected souls, was built for exactly that threshold. It is a structured path protocol for those whose route is already narrowing and who need to understand the logic of the separation before fear mislabels it as failure. It does not tell you that you are special. It shows you how to read what is being removed, what the removal is preparing, and how to move with the refinement instead of against it. The complete access point is in the first pinned comment, but only for a limited window. There is a pattern that emerges in the lives of those whose dormant assignments are crossing into active protocol, and it does not announce itself clearly. It does not arrive as a dramatic signal or a visible turning point. It arrives quietly, through accumulation, through the slow buildup of a specific kind of relational pressure that compounds over months, sometimes over years, before it becomes undeniable. It is the pattern of repeated nearness that does not hold. You find people or environments that seem genuinely close to what you have been reaching for. The resonance feels real. The proximity feels significant. And for a period, it is. The closeness is not imagined, but then something shifts beneath the surface before anything shifts above it. The fit that felt possible begins to reveal its limits at exactly the moment when you were prepared to trust it fully. The understanding that seemed mutual begins to develop gaps you cannot locate or explain. The belonging that was almost there stops completing itself, over and over, across different people, different settings, different attempts, as though the final step toward real arrival is always just slightly out of reach. Most people interpret this as bad luck, as evidence of a pattern they are generating unconsciously, as though some wound inside them is sabotaging every approach to connection at the moment it might succeed. And some of that psychological interpretation has its own partial validity. Wounds do generate interference. Patterns do repeat. But that interpretation does not account for something more precise. It does not account for the fact that this experience of nearness that does not complete often intensifies most sharply and most consistently precisely when the selected line is approaching a threshold. It does not account for the fact that the relational field around a path that is about to shift generates incompatibility before the shift becomes externally visible. The proximity that does not hold is not always self-sabotage. Sometimes it is the path doing what selected lines do before they change direction. They generate friction with the current position. They make the existing ground uncomfortable enough to leave. They clear the field of what would anchor the bearer in a location the route has already departed. This is the first sign that the old line can no longer hold you. Not dramatic rupture, not sudden abandonment, not a conflict that gives the separation a clear cause and a clean story, but the quiet and consistent experience of proximity, without completion, of connection that approaches the threshold of real belonging and stops, of community that feels almost like home, and then reveals, slowly and without explanation, that it was never going to be the final address. When this happens across multiple relationships simultaneously, when the pattern stops being about a single person or a single environment and becomes the pervasive condition of your entire relational field, you are not experiencing widespread failure. You are not cursed. You are not constitutionally incapable of connection. You are experiencing the field registering incompatibility between your path's forward direction and the relational map that your old line was built upon. The map still exists. The roads on it still lead somewhere. But none of them lead where your line is going. The second thing that happens is harder to name because it feels more like internal collapse than external event. It is the moment when your own explanations for your life stop working. When the story you have been telling yourself about who you are, why things have unfolded the way they have, and where you are going, begins to feel unconvincing from the inside. Not false exactly, but hollow. You say the words that used to anchor you, and they do not resonate the way they used to. You reach for the narrative that once gave shape to your experience and find that it no longer fits the shape your experience has taken. You offer your own self-understanding to yourself as comfort and feel it slide off rather than hold. Not because the story was built from lies, but because it was constructed inside a framework that your path has already exited, and you are now trying to use a map drawn for a territory you no longer inhabit. This is one of the most disorienting phases of the separation process because there is no replacement framework yet. The old one has become insufficient, but the new one has not yet formed. There is a gap between them, and inside that gap, the exposure is enormous. Everything feels uncertain in a way that is different from ordinary uncertainty. It is not the uncertainty of not knowing what will happen next. It is the uncertainty of not knowing who is standing here waiting to find out. The self that was coherent inside the old line begins to feel like it is losing its edges, like the definition that once made you recognizable to yourself is quietly softening. Most people, when they reach this phase, accelerate their attempts to recover coherence. They reach harder for the old relationships, The old identities, the old explanations, the old frameworks, anything that will restore the feeling of being a person with a clear story. They increase their efforts to make the old structure function again, to re-establish the ground that has shifted. But this effort does not produce stability. It produces exhaustion because you are attempting to reconstruct architecture inside a field that has already been reconfigured around you. You are building in rubble and calling it a foundation. The Arcturian path does not ask you to rebuild what has dissolved. It asks you to recognize that the dissolution of the old framework is not a crisis requiring emergency repair. It is the second sign that the separation is active and directional. The loss of your own explanatory structure is the path removing what would hold you in an interpretation of your life that can no longer carry your actual assignment forward. The emptiness where the old story used to live is not a void. It is a cleared field. And the cleared field is exactly what the next phase requires. What comes after this is isolation that does not feel like ordinary loneliness. Ordinary loneliness has a social solution. You can close it by finding company, by reaching toward someone who is present, by inserting yourself into a gathering and letting the warmth of proximity reduce the ache. This isolation is different. It feels specific. It feels structural. It feels almost like a property of your location rather than a condition of your circumstances. You can be surrounded by people and feel it. You can be inside a conversation, inside a celebration, inside a home that should feel like belonging, and feel that a particular kind of distance is fixed inside you, not between you and any single person, but between you and the world as it currently runs, as though you are present in the room, but operating at a frequency the room cannot receive. It is the sense that you are between signals. The frequency you are operating at has no matching transmission in the immediate environment, not because you are superior, not because others are lacking, but because the relational field that was built around your old line carries a signal your path has already moved past, and the new field has not yet assembled around your forward position. You are in the interval between those two fields, and in that interval, nothing external confirms where you are or what is happening. The silence of that unconfirmed interval is the specific quality of what you have been experiencing as isolation. This in-between state, this disconnection that persists even inside company, is often the most painful phase of the entire separation process, because it cannot be solved by the usual methods. You cannot think your way through it. You cannot reach socially hard enough to close the gap. You cannot manufacture belonging through effort or presence or willingness. The gap is not produced by insufficient effort. It is produced by the structural fact that you are between fields. You have departed the old frequency, and you have not yet stabilized inside the new one. The gap is the crossing itself. The unbearable part is that nothing on the outside confirms the nature of the transition. From outside your path, you simply look isolated, perhaps withdrawn, perhaps struggling, perhaps difficult to reach. The people around you do not see a bearer in the middle of a structural repositioning. They see someone who seems to be pulling away, or fading, or lost. The internal reality is not visible to those still anchored in the old field. And so you carry the isolation without the language for it. And you do what everyone does when they lack language for their experience. You borrow the nearest available interpretation. And the nearest available interpretation for most people is deficiency, failure to connect, defect in the system, something wrong at the source. Here is what the Arcturian field recognizes that most interpretive frameworks miss entirely. The separation phase does not arrive because you have done something to earn it. It does not arrive as consequence of specific failure. It arrives because the assignment embedded in your line requires a specific kind of clearing before it can move into operational phase. The clearing is not punishment for what you got wrong. It is not a prolonged test of endurance designed to evaluate how much suffering you can withstand before breaking. It is the path, doing what selected lines always do when they shift register. They shed the weight of incompatibility before they rise. What was shed was not rejected from a place of judgment. It was completed, released from active service on this particular route. What you are experiencing in the aftermath of that shedding is not the debris of failure. It is the interval between one phase ending and another becoming visible, and intervals are not failures. They are the structural pause before a new phase initializes. The people who left your field were not necessarily bad relationships. Some of them were among the most significant connections of your life. Some of them carried real love, real history, real weight. But significance in one phase of a path does not guarantee compatibility with the next phase. The field does not separate what is bad. It separates what is finished. And finished is not a condemnation. Finished is a completion. The relationship completed its function on this route. It walked with you as far as the architecture of your line required it to walk. When it stopped, the stopping was not evidence that it was false. It was evidence that the route had moved beyond the terrain that connection was built to navigate. What has been most damaging in your experience of this is not the loss itself, but the misinterpretation layered on top of it. Every time you turned what was actually path-driven separation into personal verdict, every time you took the signal of route refinement and translated it into proof of your own unworthiness, you added a layer of self-rejection on top of a process that already demanded significant endurance. You were not only navigating the actual loss, you were simultaneously prosecuting yourself for it. That double burden, carrying the separation while also carrying the conviction that it must mean something fundamental is broken in you, is what made this period so extraordinarily heavy. The path asked you to endure the clearing. The misinterpretation asked you to condemn yourself while enduring it. Most of the weight you have been carrying was not the path. It was the verdict you added to it. This is where the Arcturian framing becomes not just spiritually resonant, but functionally necessary. If you can reinterpret the separation as process rather than punishment, if you can hold the narrowing of your relational field as root refinement rather than relational failure, you stop adding the weight of self-condemnation to a path that is already demanding everything from you. You travel lighter through the clearing. You misread fewer signals. You stop attempting to reverse what the field has already executed, and you stop losing energy on the effort to undo what was structurally correct. The path becomes navigable in a way it cannot be, while you are simultaneously fighting it and blaming yourself for its effects. The final recognition is this: you have been asking the wrong question. The question you have been asking, the one that has shaped how you interpret almost everything that has happened, is, What is wrong with me that this keeps happening? That question has an answer for every day you care to search for one. It will always return something. It will always find material. And every answer it finds will reinforce the premise embedded in the question, which is that the cause of this experience lives inside your deficiency. The question that corresponds more accurately to what is actually happening is this: what is being prepared that requires this level of clearing? Those two questions lead to entirely different locations. The first leads deeper into self-interrogation, deeper into the search for the flaw that explains the separation, deeper into the kind of self-rejection that makes the separation phase nearly unbearable and renders its actual meaning invisible. The second leads toward the path itself, toward the architecture of what is unfolding, toward the recognition that what has been removed had to be removed, and that what is opening in the space it left has a shape, a direction, and a function that the old field could never have permitted. The second question does not excuse imperfection. It simply locates the cause accurately, and accurate location changes everything about how you move. You are not watching your life narrow into failure. You are watching your route reduce to what it can actually carry on the forward path. The narrowing is not subtraction. It is precision. A road that loses its excess traffic before a sharp turn is not diminishing. It is preparing for terrain that requires specific conditions. Those environments that stopped fitting were not your home. They were your waiting room. They held you during the dormant phase, and they served that function genuinely. But they were never configured for what comes after the dormant phase closes. Those relationships that could not hold the weight of what you are becoming were not your final destination. They were companions for a portion of the route. When the path forked, they walked straight, and your line turned. And that divergence is not a failure of the relationship. It is the first visible evidence that your line has a direction the old path was not equipped to follow. Say this, if it lands true for you. I do not call the pruning rejection. I was not discarded. I was separated. What is leaving my life is not random. It is the field executing what the protocol already mapped. The separation that has been touching your life is not the story of what was lost. It is the first chapter of what is opening. The old line losing its grip was not the ending. It was the clearance. And clearance does not happen unless something is preparing to move through the space it creates. The field does not clear for nothing. Protocol does not execute without a destination already registered. What has been removed was removed in service of what is arriving. And what is arriving required exactly this kind of space. The Arcturian protocol keepers do not register this separation as your failure. They register it as your threshold. And threshold means the dormant phase has closed. It means the preparation that required loss, distance, and incompatibility has reached its structural purpose. It means the cleared field is now the precise condition for what the next phase requires. The separation was not the wound at the center of your story. It was the procedure. And the procedure is complete when the field is ready to receive what the assignment was always encoded to deliver. You were not brought to this moment to understand that you have been suffering. You were brought here to understand that the suffering had structure, had direction, had function, and has already served the purpose the path required of it. The clearing is not still happening to you. You are already standing inside the cleared field, The question is no longer whether the separation was real. It was. The question is whether you are willing to stop interpreting it as failure long enough to see what the cleared ground is ready to grow. The separation is not over, but it is no longer invisible. Before you scroll, leave one sign in the comments that this separation has already touched your life. It could be people falling away, the feeling of not belonging, repeated distance, unexplained isolation, or the sense that your old path no longer fits. Name it clearly. If this transmission recognized something you have been carrying in silence, share it with someone who feels alone, cut off, or misunderstood and cannot explain why. And if you are ready to understand the separation, instead of blaming yourself, subscribe to Arcturian Chosen Path. You are not watching this by accident. You are recognizing a path already in motion, and this is only the beginning.